Hello and welcome back to Memories of a Musician. I'm your host, Vito DeSalvo. Once again, we have a great program for you this evening featuring a gentleman by the name of Kevin McManus. Kevin is a trombonist, a terrific player. He's also an educator. We're going to talk about that. And you're going to hear a lot about Kevin in his career as a trombone player. Has played with so many people, recorded with a ton of people, and studied with some really great people. So you're going to hear about all of this with Kevin. I personally met Kevin, I can't even remember the year, but I hired Kevin to play. I was I was actually contracting musicians and performed with a gentleman by the name of Michael Amante, who's an Italian singer from New York. I think he was one of the two guys that from 9/11, there was a fireman and a policeman, and they became quite famous as singing the national anthem and so forth during that whole 9/11 aftermath of the 9/11 thing. So Michael Amante went on touring, and he performed at many Italian festivals and things like that. And we did a concert with Michael I actually did a concert with him also in Clearwater, Florida at the Ruth Eckerd Center. But this was in Pittsburgh at the Carnegie Music Hall in Homestead. And I hired Kevin to play trombone in that orchestra. And so we go back, that's pretty long ago. I couldn't tell you the year. But anyways, I put together an opening montage of music that Kevin is playing on, of course. And there's a lot of different pictures and things. So you'll get a sense of some of the things that Kevin's done. Let me play this for you. Wow. And just seeing a taste of some of the different artists that Kevin's played with, you're going to find a lot more as we go along into the program. So now I would like to read the background of Kevin, read his bio for you. And remember, the bios you can always find on my website, vitodesalva.com. There is a menu item named Memories of the Musician. If you go there, you can see from every episode that we've done from January 15th, 2025 with Ernie Pontier, first episode. And you can read their bio, every guest's bio, and then you can click on a button to replay the episode, which takes you really to my YouTube channel. So if you go on there, make sure that you subscribe and be a follower on my YouTube channel. But Kevin's bio is quite extensive, so I've gotten a little bit of a shorter version for just to read today. Kevin M. McManus holds a Bachelor of Science degree in music education from Penn State University, a graduate performer's certificate from SUNY Purchase Conservatory, and a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon University. In the summer of 2009, Mr. McManus was a featured soloist in Pittsburgh's Civic Light Opera production of Swing. Kevin was also featured alongside Dick Nash, Bill Watrous, Bill Toll, George Roberts, and Harry Betts at the 2009 NAMM show in Anaheim, California. He has performed with such artists as Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra Jr., Josh Groban, Clay Aiken, Wayne Newton, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Aretha Franklin, Betty White, Marie Osmond, Patti LaBelle, Glenn Campbell, Maureen McGovern, Isaac Hayes, Lou Rawls, Gloria Gaynor, Chubby Checker, The Temptations, The Four Tops, Don Rickles, Regis Philbin, Joan Rivers, the Manhattan Transfer, and the world-famous Glenn Miller Orchestra. Wow. Moonlight Serenade. Here we go. He has performed with the Pittsburgh and Wheeling Symphony Orchestras, Pittsburgh Opera Theater, Festival Opera, the Pittsburgh Ballet, and the River City Brass. Mr. McManus is the founder and leader of the Bone Forum, a jazz 10-member trombone ensemble with rhythm section. The Kevin M. McManus Jazz Octet, a swinging 8-piece jazz ensemble, and the Pittsburgh Trombone Project, one of America's premier chamber music ensembles. He recently performed at the American Trombone Workshop and the National Association for Music Education Conference in a new collaborative project with Matt Neese and the Capitol Bones entitled Pennsylvania Roots. Kevin can be seen and heard internationally on PBS's My Music, an American soundtrack series, with the latest shows being Engelbert Humperdinck, Live in Hawaii. And by the way, I have a little shot. I'm playing accordion on one song in that. And a Christmas show with Ronnie Spector. He has an active touring schedule and can frequently be heard across America with the Four Tops, the Temptations, and the Latshaw Productions Pop Orchestra. In 2011, Mr. McManus gave the world premiere of Todd Goodman's Concert for Trombone and Piano. The Goodman Concerto was written for Kevin and has won first prize in the British Trombone Society's 2012 concerto competition. In 2013, a new trombone sonata, The Story of Totternich, was written for Kevin by Dr. Daniel Pertu. In 2016, Kevin premiered Andrew Kahn's Finney's Birthplace for trombone and chamber orchestra with maestro Roger Zahab and the University of Pittsburgh Orchestra. Mr. McManus is currently an elementary general music teacher in the Plumboro School District. Kevin has also served on the faculty of Indiana University of Pennsylvania, Messiah College, Westminster College, Seton Hill University, Frostburg State University, Waynesburg University, Westmoreland County Community College, the Lincoln Park Performing Arts Charter School, and taught elementary instrumental music in the Gateway School District. In 2014, the Kevin M. McManus Excellence in Jazz Scholarship and the award was established in perpetuity at Westminster College for outstanding undergraduate music students. He is the founder and conductor of the Seton Hill University Youth Honors Jazz Ensemble. Kevin is currently serving as the Jazz Content Area Representative for the Pennsylvania Music Education Association and has written multiple articles for their journal. His latest writing, an interview with trombonist James Pankow of the legendary rock band Chicago, was published in the International Trombone Association Journal. Mr. McManus is an artist for Edwards Musical Instruments. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring Mr. McManus onto the program here. He's a young fellow. Look at that. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Vito. How are you?
You know what? I read all that, and I thought I'm going to bring somebody on here who was like way older than me. You're about the same age as my son. It's good to see you. It's been a while, huh?
Yes, great seeing you, and thank you for saying all that great stuff about me. I mean, after hearing all that great stuff, I can hardly wait to hear it myself.
Well, the one thing I can say is you haven't been sitting on the couch eating popcorn. Rich Bowles and I talked about that last week, and you've been a busy guy, and you've taken advantage of every opportunity that knocked on your door. I can see that. Well, that's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for putting that all together and that video montage. I really appreciate that.
Sure. Absolutely. You're welcome. So let's talk about when did you start studying music, and what was trombone your first instrument?
Yes. So music was always a part of my life. My dad, Paul, was a store manager, and he ran G.C. Murphy stores and Big Lots stores, and he retired from Big Lots.
Okay.
And he always had music playing. No matter where we were, he loved the oldies, music of the 50s, music of the 60s, some music into the 70s.
Sure.
And he just had a really great ear for like picking up like catchy tunes. So that's where it really started. He played the trombone for just a few months, and then his parents said, you're not practicing. We're not going to keep paying for this instrument. So he only played for a few months, so he wasn't musical, but my mom played clarinet. And she was always in the Charleroi area band. She was always first clarinet, second chair. And there was a young man who always beat her out for first chair. He took lessons, and she wasn't able to afford lessons. But that's what her dream was, like, to beat this kid, and be the first chair, first clarinetist in Charleroi. And to this day, she has an amazing ear. And so if I'm practicing, at her house when I go visit or whatever, if I stay overnight, she'll say, "Oh, that didn't sound so great." She has a great ear. So I had great music teachers in Charleroi. I can remember just from the age of, the elementary music, I had Nancy Launage, and she was like, the kind of like the female version of John Denver. And she'd just have her guitar, and she would just be smiling, and we'd be singing songs. And, we went on to a guy named Ted Kuhn, Mr. Kuhn. And the thing I remember most about him is he looked exactly like Tommy Dorsey.
Oh,
and
wow.
And it's for some reason I knew who Tommy Dorsey was at that time.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, wow, like Tommy Dorsey's teaching us music. And he was an older man, and he was funny. We would get out the books, and we'd learn about all the different instruments. So we'd read, there'd be like a brass chapter, and we'd read a couple pages on the trombone or the trumpet or the sax, and then he would play a record at that time.
Okay.
This just came to my mind that, oh my gosh, I remember one of my best friends in class. This is like third grade.
Okay.
One of my best friends in class is acting up in music class. And so he says, I don't want to use the boy's name, but he says, let's call him John. John, come up here and sit under my desk. So, we go on with class and John's under the desk, with this guy's feet. And he starts peeking out from underneath the desk and like, hello, making all these noises. And he says, okay, I'm gonna fix you. So he takes him over to this cabinet. It was like I'm colorblind, but it was like an orangish, reddish Wanger cabinet, standalone cabinet. And he put him in the cabinet and locked him in this closet.
Oh, wow.
And so when we went back to class, the teacher's like, where is your friend? Where is our other guy? Oh my gosh, he's still in the cabinet. He's in the closet. So Mr. Kuhn had left school. So I don't know how they got him out of there, pried him out or whatever, or had him come back. But
that's funny.
I just had great teachers, great music teachers at Charleroi. And so when it came time to choose an instrument, I wanted to play either the trumpet or the saxophone. And we were one of the last people through line. And the gentleman who had the band is named Bob Rossi, Mr. Rossi. And he was very good at setting up the band. He had all the instruments, like he had like 4 or 5 or 6 sousaphones. And he took care of them. He took a lot of pride in it. And, I have these sousaphones. I have 3 bits for each. I have mouthpieces for each. So what he did was he would keep track of how many people were going to play clarinet and flute. And so he created a balanced ensemble. So when I was like last in line, I tried the trumpet. I think I tried the sax first.
Okay.
And I couldn't really get a sound out of it. And I said, well, I want to try the trumpet. And I played the trumpet, couldn't really get a sound out of it. And he said he needed trombone players. So he said, here, try this.
Right.
Pretty much if you sneeze at a trombone, you can get some type of sound. So that's what happened. And he said, I think you would be the perfect trombone player. So I was stuck with the trombone.
And what grade was that when you were there?
4th grade.
4th grade.
Yeah.
So I have a picture that I'd like to show. This is you in high school.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what high school did you go to?
Charleroi Area High School.
Charleroi. And Bob Rossi was the band director there.
He was the elementary guy at that time.
Okay. I know that name. I know I ran into him at some point, maybe through PMEA or something, but.
Well, he was an accordion player.
Oh, maybe I knew him through that too. Yeah.
Tuba and accordion, I think, were his instruments.
Oh, okay.
And so I can remember in 5th grade, because I went to Crest Avenue School, we walked to school both ways.
Yeah.
Not uphill both ways, but just both ways. and then Meadow Avenue was a little closer to our house. It was 4th and 5th grade, and that's where I played in the band. And I can remember my dad came to my concert in 5th grade, and we played a band concert. And, I walked to school every day, home both ways, and my dad ended up driving me home from school. It was like the coolest thing that never happened before. Yeah. And so I said to my dad, I said, did we sound good? He said, oh, you guys sounded great. I said, as good as Glenn Miller? And he said, not that good.
Well, he was honest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. I have another photo I want to show too. When was this? You're pretty young.
This was just a couple years ago. This was in LA. This is in Melinda Arnold's house, who is partners with Dick Nash. Oh, wow. I was out visiting them, and I had a friend come over who lives down in San Diego named Sean Roysh, and he has this whole teaching school. It's amazing what he does with young kids, teaching them, and it's called Trombone 101.
Okay.
He gave me a shirt, and both Dick and I put it on, and he took a picture of us.
Oh, that's cool. It's funny because you haven't changed much in all these years, that from the time you were in high school till now. I mean, you really look the same. I mean, maybe, you really haven't aged.
Well, I'm up about 30 pounds. And did I tell you I'm on a diet?
No.
I'm trying to get back to my original weight. 7 pounds, 9 ounces.
Good luck with that. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet, but that's a good one. I'll remember that.
If you interview Eric DeFade, you'll hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I stole that from him. That's his material.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you say at what point music became a passion for you? Like you knew that hey, I want to do this the rest of my life, music.
Well, I think in 7th grade, I wasn't really going to band class. I mean, I did play that concert in 5th grade, but I really wasn't involved in the band or in lessons. And when I went to 7th grade, I scheduled band, or they scheduled me for band.
Okay.
And band became every day of the week rather than once a week pull-out lesson.
Okay.
And so the band director just caught me in the hallway and said, you're scheduled for band and you need to come to band. And there was no way out. Like back, you were a teacher. Back in the day, there was not really ways to I don't want to do this. I could get out of it. So I was stuck.
Yeah.
And so we went in and we had a piece called Troika from the Lieutenant Kiji Suite. And the trombones had the melody. And I couldn't even read the notes, but I realized the trombones had the melody because none of us could play it. And the band director kept saying trombones. So I started working on that melody of Troika. And when I got to actually play the melody in band class, that was when it hit me wow, it's just more than, playing upbeats or whole notes or glisses.
Yeah.
And I was the jazz content rep for PMEA for 7 years. I did their 2-year terms. I got elected 3 times, and then they just said, can you just do it for another year? And now I'm done with that. But
okay.
I wrote the first 2 articles that I wrote for the PMEA Journal, Pennsylvania Music Educators Association Journal, were articles about, I called it gateway music. And what I wanted to do was try to help band directors and also kids that they could read this article. And I didn't relate it in this way because I thought it might be inappropriate, but I wanted to relate it to gateway drugs. They say there are gateway drugs. You do this drug and then you go, I don't know anything about it, but that's the way I think music is. And I think that what you can do, I put together this whole article, 2 or 3 pages of just songs that are groove based.
Okay.
That would attract a young listener. And, that's how I think you really hook a kid is you play Charles Mingus's Moanin' or Cantaloupe Island or Watermelon Man or, just any catchy tune, Gospel John, Maynard Ferguson, and they fall in love with the music and that they want to play that music on their instrument. I wrote a second article that was based on homogeneous ensembles. So you have all these instruments in your band room. Here are albums that you can go out. So if you're a trombone player, you want to find the album Tootie's Trombones for your kids. And you want to find the Capitol Bones, Matt Neese and the Capitol Bones. And you want to find Four of a Kind, a trombone quartet. And the same thing on saxophone, the same thing with accordions, the same kit. I remember my aunt and uncle had a harmonica group, the Harmonica Cats or something like that.
Yeah.
But if you're a harmonica player, you want to hear the harmonica be able to play the melody. You don't hear burp, 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 which is what a trombone, has to do, or a tuba. And so that is what really caught me was I got to play the melody of a song.
I see.
And from there, I just, that's all I wanted to do was try to play things that were interesting on my instrument,
Sure. That's great. And tell me about this picture here, because I see you playing, and man, you've got some passion going on there. And when was this?
So this is a recital that I did. It was the Pittsburgh Trombone Project.
Okay.
And I believe this was a recital we gave. And this is maybe 2 or 3 days after my father died.
Oh, wow.
And I was playing some sort of solo.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was, definitely filled with passion for sure.
Yeah. I saw it as soon as I saw that picture. I said, "Wow,
Yes.
yeah, that's passion."
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And so then, let's talk a little bit about your music education and all the teachers. You've had some wonderful teachers. One, of course, was my teacher, Maddie Shiner, and I have a picture with you with Maddie Shiner right here.
Yes.
And where was this, and when was this picture taken?
Okay. So I only have a few pictures of Mr. Shiner. I took a picture or two of him in his office.
Okay.
Front of his wall, which was like, if you ever, I mean, you did, but I guess for the audience, if you ever went into his office, when I studied with him, it was in the basement of Duquesne University.
Right. I did too.
And he had this literal wall of pictures. I would say, in my mind, I'm saying maybe 6 pictures deep. And it was like at the who's who of not only his students who had made it everywhere. Like there was a picture of the Glenn Miller Orchestra. The entire section was his trombone students. There was a picture from Doc Severinsen, signed by Doc. There was a real picture of Glenn Miller that Glenn had signed to Mr. Shiner. Yeah. There was a picture of Tommy Dorsey, and it said, to the greatest trombonist I ever heard, and to the swellest guy I ever met. Yeah. Was Tommy Dorsey. And so I actually, when he passed, about a year after he passed, I bought his King 2B, which Tommy Dorsey had given him. Wow. I bought it from his daughter, Sylvia.
Sylvia, yeah. Wow.
And so I have a few pictures, but that picture in particular was at a Shiner reunion concert. And I want to say that it was celebrating the life of Eddie. Oh. And they put together a brass ensemble. I did not play because I never went to Duquesne. I wasn't invited to play, but I was in the audience. And that was at the after party with Mr. Shiner. And I was probably an 11th or 12th grader there.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So you were young there. Yeah, I could see. But, Mr. Shiner was, he was just amazing teacher. And I started studying when I was 10th grade in high school. And then, of course, through college, and was in the brass ensemble and so forth. So, and I remember his studio very, very well. Good times and some rough times.
Yeah. Mr. Shiner, well, I mean, he was a great man. He was a great, great man. And the things that he taught you through music, he was teaching you life lessons.
That's for sure.
And if you were hard on yourself, if you held yourself to the standards that he was asking you to hold yourself to, then life was easy.
Yeah.
And if you didn't, then you found out that life was hard. Yeah. And so my relationship with him was very different than most students because he was totally retired from Duquesne at this point.
I see.
And he had free time.
I see.
And so the taskmaster sort of side of him was not there with me. He was like a loving grandfather.
Okay.
And my lessons were my last lesson was 4 hours long. And so I would study with him 2 times a week. Wow. I would study with him on Saturday morning at Duquesne, and he would always put me as the first lesson. So he would say, "Are you free, next Saturday at 9:00?" And I would say, "Yeah, Mr. Shiner, I'll be here." And he'd say, "Okay, come in at 8, and he would do this all the time. And I remember somebody told me never be late for him, that his motto was, when you're on time, you're late.
You're late. That's right.
So my first lesson, oh my gosh, I'm going to study with Maddie Shiner. So I go there and I get there literally at like 6:30 in the morning and the building's locked, for an 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock lesson.
Yeah.
So the janitor named George, he was this wonderful guy. He gets there and he lets me in, and I'm where can you tell me where Mr. Shiner's studio is? Okay, it's right here. So I'm sitting out there, and he comes in like a half an hour before my lesson schedule. And he comes in dressed in a suit, of course, his blue raincoat. He has his umbrella. He has a thermos of coffee, and I think a banana. And he looks at me, and he could not believe I was there early. And he looks at me and he goes, "What size are your shoes?" I said, I don't know. I don't know if it was 9.5 or whatever. And he goes, "Good, we're different already." And that was my introduction to Mr. Shiner. And we came in, and he said, "Put your stuff on the stand." And he started with his list. "If you're going to study with me, you have to be determined, and you have to have," and he would like pump me up, you know, "You have to have discipline, and you have to," and he would get you so inspired before you even started playing. And then he'd sit down with his pencil, and he'd have his cup of coffee, and we would go for 2 hours. And it was just an amazing experience. And he charged me $10 a lesson, Vito.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "If you practice, I don't want your money." So I like almost never paid for a lesson. And then I would see him. So we had a list of books, a set of books that we would do on Saturday morning. And then I would see him on Wednesday at Progressive Music for the last lesson. And I would be there for hours. In fact, my parents were like, they couldn't wait till I could drive because they didn't want to sit there,
Yeah.
And, he's the guy who introduced me to black coffee, and he was wonderful. And Tony Petrocelli was there, and Mario was there, and these people were just amazing. And they fostered such a great environment for a young learner.
Yeah. Great stories there, Kevin. Thank you for sharing that. Tell me about this guy here.
Oh, well, that's the greatest trombone player in the world.
Yeah.
That is Dick Nash. He was my hero from the very beginning. I had heard him, didn't know who he was. And when I started being able to play, I played in an honors band that was like for middle school and high school kids. It was the Knights of Columbus honors band.
Okay.
And it was the first honors band I ever went to.
Uh-huh.
And there was a guy in the audience named Art Ramacone. And this guy came up to me. He was an older gentleman. He played trombone. And he said, "You play great." And he said, "Why don't you start coming to the Mars band with me?" He knew my mom. This guy knew my family, but I had never met him. And so I started going to the Mars band, Monessen Area Retired Steelworkers.
Oh, wow.
And it was called the Mars band. And when he said Mars band, I'm thinking, what in the world is he talking about? So I went there on Wednesday nights, and that's where I met my friend Chris Carson. And I met another guy named Chuck Allshouse. And he was a manager of a grocery store in California, PA.
Wow.
And he taught the tennis team at California High, and he loved playing the trombone. And he invited me over to his house to play duets. He was about probably 60 years old, 63, 65 years old at this time. And he put on Tootie's trombones. He said, "Listen to this." And that is the first time I knew that it was Dick Nash. And I said, I just love Frank Rosalino was on that album. He's like my hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I tried to find every single recording I could of Dick Nash and Frank Rosalino. And when I was on the road with Urinetown, the Broadway musical, I subbed on Broadway, and then I got the first national tour. I said, when this tour hits LA, the very first thing I'm going to do is call the local 47 and get Dick Nash's and Bill Watrous' phone numbers. And I called both of them.
Wow.
And I called Dick, and I didn't get him. I left a message, and I said, "Hey, Dick, this is Kevin McManus." And, he didn't know me from Adam.
Right.
And left this message. I went for a walk. We were at the Ramada in West Hollywood. I think I called it the Wilshire. And, you know, we were performing at the Wilshire.
Yeah.
Maybe I called it the Wilshire. And Dick and his wife thought that was the funniest thing because it was the opposite. It was either I called it the Wilshire and they called it the Wilshire. But so I walk up, we're done performing. I walk up and I'm on the Sunset Strip, and I had walked all the way down to Capitol Records. And I'm looking at this iconic building and my phone rings. And it says Dick Nash. And I pick this up and he screams, "Hey, Kev!" You know? And he thought that was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what we would do every time we call each other. We scream, you know, "Hey, Dick, it's Kev," you know, into the phone. And so I asked him if I could come and take a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, here I am, you know, 23 years old or something. I don't even know, but I'm a young man. And he says, "No," he said, "You know, we won't do a lesson, but come over and we'll compare notes." That's what he said to me. And I'm thinking, you and me are going to compare notes, you know? So I went over to his house and they had a fire going. It was like 70 degrees, 72 degrees. And they had a fire going for me because they thought I'd be cold.
Oh.
From Pittsburgh, you know?
Yeah, that's funny.
So, you know, I'm dressed in a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops. And they have like long sleeve everything on. And we made a fire. We thought you'd be cold. And I met him and his wife, Barbara. And they were amazing to me. And they came out to the show to hear me play. And we have still to this day, his wife has passed. And he has the most wonderful lady in the world, Melinda Arnold, as his, you know, soulmate. And I take a trip out there every year to see them, stay at his house. And he's 90, I don't know if he's 97, 98, 96, but he's an amazingly spry guy and just the most amazing trombonist. And
playing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He keeps the trombone right next to him. And just like he usually watches, like, you know, reruns of the Boston baseball, you know, and then he's noodling, you know, and puts it down and watches a little bit more, and just like the ultimate, you know, greatest statesman in music.
That's wild. That is really wild. I have another photo of another teacher of yours, Bob Hamrick.
Bob was amazing to me. He was in the Pittsburgh Symphony. And, you know, still to this day, I just heard the Pittsburgh Symphony yesterday. I took my second graders to hear the Pittsburgh Symphony. And still to this day, the Pittsburgh Symphony is so inspiring because these men and women are like world class.
Oh.
But Bob played in this orchestra, was the principal trombonist. And I got to study with him a little bit in high school and then in college. And he took me under his wing. He was, again, you just couldn't ask for better teachers and better people. He was a role model. And I always thought, like, when I look back at my teachers, each one of them picked a different area of me, either as a musician, a trombonist, or a person to work on.
I see.
And, you know, their approaches were so complementary. There was never a match between teachers where one would tell me this and, oh, don't listen to that. But it was always like they were trying to not step on each other. They were trying to complement each other. And Bob, the show Chicago came through. Now this is an amazing experience. Right after the movie with Richard Gere came out, that show was booked in Pittsburgh. Like, it was like maybe the week or two after the show had just hit. So this was like it was in 2002, I think, or 2003. And so this is like the rage. Well, it was booked in Pittsburgh. The national tour, the Cell Block tour, was booked, and it was going through the Pittsburgh Symphony. So Bob was playing first trombone, and the contractor asked Bob, "Who do you want to play second?" And he said, "I want this guy, Kevin McManus." And the guy said, "Who's that?" And he said, He said, here's his number, just call him, you know? And so I got to play with the whole symphony guys, the section. It was the first time I'd ever played with these guys. I mean, it was the greatest experience because they played to such a level.
Yeah.
You know, and then the show was great. And the audience, I mean, it was packed. So, and then, you know, it's amazing because all of these teachers who I've had, not only have they been my teachers and my mentors, but they've become my friends. And almost every one of them I've hired to play for me.
At some point, yeah.
So like Dick, I hired him to play on a recording session, a project that I did that I wanted him to be a soloist on. You know, I obviously never hired Mr. Shiner, but Bob Hamrick played in my trombone group, The Bone, for him. And so, you know, it was just amazing. And then that led to more work with the Pittsburgh Symphony because when Tony Bennett came through and they needed a lead bone player, more of a commercial player,
right?
I got the call, and I can't remember if it was after Tony's 80th. I think it was Tony's 90th birthday. It was like the day after.
Wow.
He came through Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And so these are experiences that I would have never had it not been for Bob. And I still keep in contact with him.
No, I bet. Yeah.
He is wonderful. He just turned 80 on February. I think it was the 26th.
Wow. God bless him. How about this teacher here?
This is the most important teacher I ever had.
Okay.
This man is just the greatest ever. And he changed my entire life. I just like owe him everything. He is the greatest living teacher on any instrument that you could ever ask for. He just retired from Penn State University. He's an amazing musician. He combines the Remington school, the Eastman Remington approach,
okay,
with the Arnold Jacobs Chicago approach, where it's all about, you know, singing through your instrument and playing very healthy and always creating a great sound and always putting the music first. There is no person in the world that is better than that guy right there.
Huh. That's a big compliment to him.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, Kevin, you obviously did a ton of playing thus far in your career, you know, but you also had the opportunity when you were, I guess you were writing for the PMEA or whatever it was. I forget now. It was in your thing, in your bio, to interview one of the trombone greats, James Pankow of the band Chicago. It's amazing. And I have a picture here. This is pretty cool. This is, I guess, the cover of the Association Journal. And you did this interview, huh?
Yes. Okay. So I have been a member of the International Trombone Association since 1996, and they publish 4 journals a year, quarterly journals.
Okay.
And I read every journal. I love the Trombone Association. So there had only been one. So of all the trombonists in the world, this guy is probably the most famous because he is the founding member and he's written the song, many of the songs, and he's written almost all of the horn arrangements for the band Chicago Transit Authority. This guy has influenced more trombonists than any. I mean, like the two guys, I mean, are Glenn Miller and Jimmy Pankow. These are the most influential trombonists ever. I mean, we still play Glenn Miller's music, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, his music will be around forever. So I had taken note that in all the years that I had purchased the journal and been a member, and in years that my friends gave me the journal, they had finished with the magazines beforehand and said, hey, you can have these. And I look back, there had only been one article written about Jimmy Pankow. And that was by a great trombonist named Steve Wiest.
Okay.
And he calls Jim King James. Okay. Huh. And so he wrote a beautiful article. And I would always go back to that article. And I decided that I would ask the journal if I could write in almost like a part 2 to his article. And I had to submit what I was going to write about, the questions I was going to ask. And they were going to be very, very detailed questions that I had listened to everything online, every interview I could find. These were going to be like really, really specific questions. And they were going to be for trombonists, you know, and trombone musicians, you know. So, so I got the go ahead, and I had to approach him through the management, and I had to submit the questions, and I had to submit the approval that I got that this would actually be published. We had to have like a publishing date, and that it was going to be front page and all this. So, okay, so we got all this. So they're like, sure, Jimmy will talk to you. And so they send me a phone number, and it's Jimmy's phone number. It's his cell phone number. or no, excuse me. I take that back. They sent me a time. They sent me a date and a time, and it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they said, you'll get a call. So I have, you know, everything ready to record this, and the phone rings, and it's Jimmy on his cell phone. And I pick up, and I'm like, hello. And he's like, hey, Kevin, this is Jimmy Pankow. And he was the most down to earth guy in the world. So I was granted a 30-minute interview with him.
Wow.
So he just starts. I don't even ask him a question. He just starts. And it's like, he just starts telling me about his career.
Okay.
And we get to like 28 minutes. I didn't say a word. And he said, yeah, okay, so do you have any questions? And I said, Jim, I said, I'm granted 30 minutes with you, and we're at 28 minutes. I said, I have questions, but, you know, it's totally up to you. And he said, oh, go ahead, ask questions. So I started down this thing, and I started like, you know, kind of what you did, you do. And I was asking very specifically, like, when did you start? What kind of horn? What kind of mouthpiece? Who was your first teacher? And he was into it. And we ended up talking for 4.5 hours.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And I asked him at the end, I said, I'm going to type all this up. If I have any questions, could I reach out to you again just to polish? And he said, this is my cell phone. He said, you can call me or text me. And he said, here's my email address.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up doing a second interview with him, much shorter. And I published this, and he wrote an absolutely, so it was number one. It was the longest document that they had ever run in there, the longest article that they had ever run in there, which I think wasn't because of me, it was because of Jim and his unbelievable career.
Sure.
And he was impressed because, just like what you're doing with these pictures, when he talked about his high school band director, I found a picture of his high school band director. I found a picture of his teacher who he hadn't thought of in 54 years. Mm-hmm. I found a picture of there was a priest who was his jazz ensemble director. And this guy would say, like, they'd be playing in jazz ensemble, and they'd be like, listen, man, if you're not going to swing, this is a priest. He's like, if you're not going to swing, you're out of here. He would kick these guys out of the jazz ensemble because they weren't swinging.
Yeah.
And so I like petitioned contacted every person that he had talked about, and found pictures and got the copyrights to publish these pictures. And it was amazing. And he and I are still in touch. I've never met him in person. I've heard him in concert live many times, but he's an awesome guy and like an inspiration for trombonists.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great story. Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's move on. I want to talk about Bones West.
Oh.
And you with Bill Toll, Dick Nash, and Bill Watrous. I have a photo. I want you to look at this.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about this picture and about Bones West.
Okay. So this is at the NAMM show in about 2009, 10, 8, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So I hired Dick to do some recording, and he and I would correspond in the beginning. I met him in 2003, and he and I would correspond with letters. So I have all these letters that he would write to me and I would write to him. And then we started talking on the phone. And I had found a Williams trombone. Williams were these handmade custom instruments that were made basically in LA. There's more of a story, but they were California trombones.
Okay.
And a lot of the studio players played these instruments.
Oh, okay.
And so they're like, in our world, they're very sought after and appreciated, respected, these trombones. So I had always wanted one of these because I knew that Dick played one. Dick played a king in the beginning, a Bach bell with a king slide, and then he played Bach, and then he went to Williams. And a lot of his big recordings were on Williams, and then he switched back to Bach at the end of his career.
Okay.
So I wanted one of these trombones to be like Dick Nash. So I found one that was very beat up, very worn out in Pittsburgh, and I was going to buy it. And I wrote to him and I said, I found this Williams 6, and I described the whole thing to him. And I said, this is the price the guy wants. What do you think? And he said, and he wrote back within just a couple days, or maybe he called and he said, don't buy it. I have 2 Williams. Come out and get them. So I went out and I bought his 2 Williams. I bought a Williams 6. It was a Tennessee. Like I said, they were mostly made in California, but his last one he had was a Tennessee 6. So I bought that. And then I bought his Williams 8, which is a different model that was a Burbank. And so I get this phone call from this guy named John Noxon. And he calls me and he says, Dick, I was over at Dick's house and he told me that you bought his Williams and I want them.
Oh.
He said, I'll pay you whatever you want for them.
Oh, my goodness.
I said, these are the most special prize things of my life. They're my heroes trombones. And so we started talking, and I found out that this guy was the Williams expert in the entire world. He had serial numbers. He knew the lineage of every trombone Williams had ever made, and who had them and who sold them, how much they could be sold for. He could get you parts for them. So he said, the next time you're in LA, you need to come out and we'll hang. Because we started talking on the phone.
Sure.
And he introduced me to all these guys. I went to Bones West. And Bones West was a group that was started by George Roberts. And it's on Saturday mornings. It was at the Musicians Union, Local 47. And he had all these guys who wrote for it. Frank Comstock was like the first writer. And then that's how I got associated with Frank Comstock. And through this group and literally through Dick Nash, I've met 100 people in LA and they've all become my friends.
Wow.
And it was through this connection from Dick to John Noxon to John Campanello to Barry Kears. And so I went to Bones West and met all these men. And they invited me to come out and be a guest soloist. And I said, hey, can Dick come? If I come out, I'm going to visit Dick. Can Dick come? So they were like, oh my gosh. So I got invited to play at this NAMM show. Dick came. They also had Bill Watrous. Harry Betts wrote 2 special arrangements for us. George Roberts. And I'm trying to and Bill Toll, I don't know if I said that. And Bill Toll was one of my absolute heroes growing up. So we're standing in a circle, okay? All of us, George, all these guys. And this guy comes up to me and says, and I hear him say, I've always wanted to meet you. And I turn and this guy's looking at me.
Huh.
And I'm like, you've always wanted to meet me. And he said, yeah. And he tells me what his name is. Now I'm drawing a blank what his name is, but he's like the foremost slide repairman.
Oh, wow.
In LA. And he's from Pittsburgh. He grew up in Pittsburgh. I cannot remember what his name, Bruce. It'll come to me. But so Watrous says, here, look at my slide. Bruce Below. His name's Bruce Below. He said, Watcher says, look at my slide. Bruce is the only guy that works on my slide. And then Dick says, here, look at my slide. And so we start talking, and it was like the coolest time just to hang with these guys and Bruce. And then we went up and we performed one or two of my arrangements, and then these other ones that were written for us.
I have a video from Bones West. Let me play this, and then you could talk about it after it's over here. There you go. There you go. Nice solo on there, Kevin. Yeah.
I'm not a jazz trombone player. You know, I'm a commercial guy, you know, and I've never claimed to be a jazz trombonist. So, you know, I look at that and I think, I wish you'd heard Dick Nash's solo rather than mine.
I didn't include it just because of time.
Yes, of course.
I certainly heard it. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I wanted to talk about the Pittsburgh Trombone Project. Okay. And I have, that's another whole group. Let me see here. This picture here.
Yes.
And I recognize Bob Matchett there on the far left. And of course I see you. I don't know the other two guys maybe.
Okay. So these are some of my best friends.
Okay.
On the left is Bob Matchett.
Right.
Bob Matchett is the best commercial trombone player in town. He plays all the shows in town. He is amazing. Next to him, and speak of a great music educator in person. That guy has produced so many students on every instrument. He was the band director at Seneca Valley High School. Now he's at the elementary, but this guy is an amazing musician. Another amazing musician. This is Jim Nova from the Pittsburgh Symphony.
Okay.
He is the second trombone player of the Pittsburgh Symphony. He plays all of the trombones from soprano, alto, tenor, bass, contrabass. He's a great arranger, like a great teacher. He teaches at Duquesne University. He was the head of brass there. But this guy is like internationally sought after. Like truly internationally sought after. This is one of the young best trombone players in the world. And then on the far right is another one of my best friends. This is Chris Carson, the best freelance bass trombone player in Pittsburgh. Going back to the Mars Band, this guy changed my life because what he did was he recognized that I could play and he could play. This guy could play. And he said, come out to my car. We went out to his little like it was like a Chevrolet Cavalier or something like that, right? And he's so tall, and he had this miniature car. It was like a clown car.
Yeah.
And he put in a tape, and on the front of that tape was Joe Alessi playing Slide Area, the first CD that Joe put out. And then on the back of this tape was Christian Lindbergh playing the winter trombone, the solo winter, the string, yeah, but playing it on a trombone. And I mean, when I say I was blown away to hear Joe Alessi play the Lonnie Grandal trombone concerto with that sound, I had never heard a trombone sound like that. And then to hear Christian Lindbergh play with this amazing technique. And he said, "Oh, you like that?" And he put in another tape with Four of a Kind, like the greatest trombone quartet in the world. It had the four greatest trombonists at that time, living trombonists. And he puts this thing on, and I hear four trombones playing together, playing chamber music. And he said, "Oh, you like that?" And he turns the tape over, and he has Chicago Symphony Orchestra with Leonard Bernstein playing Shostakovich 7th Symphony. And in that one night, it changed my life. And so the Pittsburgh Trombone Project is birthed from that experience of listening to Four of a Kind that night with Chris Carson. In about 2001 or 2002, I put together a trombone group that would just meet in the summer. I invited every trombonist. We rehearsed on the top floor of Duquesne University in room 322, and I called it Hoyt's East because the great trombone group out in LA was called Hoyt Bohannon, Hoyt's Garage. We did that for one summer. And then I went on the road. So it must have been 2002. While on the road, I went on the show with the Broadway musical Urinetown. While on the road, I was out for like 5 months. I loved it. I loved every second of it, but I missed playing music with my friends. So I came home for the week of Christmas and I formed a jazz octet. And we called it the Collective Jazz Octet. And I pulled my friends together and we played music that first time. So once I did that, I realized, look, I can form a group. So I kept that going. That became like my jazz octet, Kevin McManus Jazz Octet. I came off the road and I formed the Bone Forum, the Pittsburgh Bone Forum, right? Which was basically this a new version with rhythm section this time of Hoyt's East. And the reason why that came about was because Al Dow had a big band that played every Wednesday night at his club called Dow's on 9th.
Yep.
And he got rid of the big band and he asked me, he said, "Could you form a big band for me?" And I said, "Who do you want to play?" And he named every player in the band except for the player he didn't want. And I said, "Al, that's never going to work. I'm not going to do that." I said, "Why don't we form a trombone group, jazz trombone group? Then you'll still get to play." So I formed this trombone group called the Bone Forum. And the reason why I called it the Bone Forum was because I wanted it to be like hearkening back to the Forum in Rome, that everybody could come and have a voice. Every trombone player. There were going to be 10 trombonists, but anybody who came out could come and sit in or play with us, play a solo, play the part, whatever. So once we got that up and running, I realized this is the jazz component. We need to have a classical component that we could go into colleges and teach with and give recitals. And that became the Pittsburgh Trombone Project. It's Bob Matchett, myself, Jim Nova, and Chris Carson. And I called it the project because if they needed a trio to come out, we could do it as trio. If they had a budget for 5, we could do it with 5. And from this group, I decided to pair up with a church. And I wanted to create something special for our trombonists. So we created this thing. I created this thing called Trombone Sunday. It happens now once a year. It used to happen twice a year, but I felt like twice a year was a lot of work. And so coming up here in July, any trombonist from anywhere, we've had them from everywhere, we'll play in a church. We have a rehearsal and then we play a service, and I write out all the parts of the service and all the hymns and special preludes and special music offerings. And we call that Trombone Sunday. So that's kind of the whole thing that got us to the Pittsburgh Trombone Project.
Well, I have a video of the Pittsburgh Trombone Project playing a song Amber Waves.
Okay.
Let me play this, and then you might want to comment after. There you go. Nice. That's very nice.
I have not heard that in so many years. That was the first recording we did. And that is myself, Bob Matchett, and Chris Carson playing 10 trombone parts. So Chris played the bottom 2 parts. I wrote that in 2 choirs. I patterned it off of 2D trombones, 2 choirs, a bass trombone in each choir, 1, 2, 3, 4 tenors.
Okay.
I oppose that. It's almost like a big band. This is like the saxes versus the brass, and we recorded that, and I didn't know what kind of video to put with it. And I thought, boy, our police officers no one talks about the people who drive the ambulances, the EMS. No one talks about these people, and they save lives. They're the most important. No one talks about the firefighters. So I just put the video together, just wanting to thank them for protecting us. I have hardly any regrets in my life, but one of my regrets is not joining the military. I wish I would have served my country. My dad served, during the Vietnam era. And that is one of the only regrets I have. So I wanted to try to put something together to honor these men and these women who do this for us.
Very nice. Very nice. And I have a video, I think this is in 2018, of you playing in the American Trombone Workshop, Willowcrest. Tell us about this real quickly, and I'll show the video.
Okay, so I have been very lucky to direct jazz ensembles. I directed the Seton Hill University Jazz Ensemble and the Westminster College Jazz Ensemble.
Okay.
And one of my favorite big band charts is Bob Florence's Willowcrest. So I wrote this out for 10 trombones. So how this came about, I had this idea. I said, we have this group called the Bone Forum.
Yep.
And the trombonists are myself, Bob Matchett, Kevin Clark, who you interviewed,
yep,
Mark Snyder, and Chris Carson. And we do those 5 trombones with the rhythm section, piano, bass, and drums. And these guys, I am by far the weak link of this group. So I said, I'm so proud of these other players that we should get to, Bob Matchett and I went out to lunch at North Park, out in North Park. And we sat on the deck in the bright, beautiful sun, looking out at the lake, having a couple drinks. And I said, I have an idea for you that I want to float by you. He said, okay. I said, I love the way you guys play so much, and I love playing in the Bone Forum. I think we should get the group together with Matt Neese and the Capitol Bones. Matt Neese was the lead trombonist of the Army Blues. His best friend, it's like Chris and I, best friends, Chris Carson, tenor and bass, with Matt Neese and Jeff Cortazzo are the DC version of that. And these guys like set the standard as far as lead trombone player and bass trombone player. Okay. You can put anything else in the section, but when you got those two guys, you're golden.
Yeah.
So I said we should ask them, because they have a group exactly the same size as ours, Five Bones and Rhythm, if we could put it together and do the big charts. So I called Matt, and Matchett said, go for it. So I called Matt and I said, hey, this is my idea. So we started talking about it. And he goes, you know, all you guys are from Pittsburgh. And he goes, I'm from Pennsylvania, and Jeff's from Pennsylvania, and this guy, and he goes, 9 of the 10 of us are from Pennsylvania. He goes, that's a lot of Pennsylvania roots. And I go, yeah, you're right. And he goes, the only thing we got to do is come up with a name. And I said, Matt, you've already named it, Pennsylvania Roots. So we put this together, and we played at the 2018? 2018 American Trombone Workshop. And I'm hoping to contact him again and maybe do this again. But this is my favorite big band chart, Willow Crest.
Okay, you're good. there at the end, huh? Nice. I saw Kevin Clark in there too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that rhythm section is from the Army Blues.
Yeah.
And one of my teachers was Randy Purcell.
Okay.
And Randy Purcell's son is playing guitar in there.
Oh.
And so he's in the rhythm section. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the bass trombonist is a graduate, studied with Mark Lusk at Penn State University.
Okay.
His name's Matt Neff, and I play in the Nittany trombone quartet with Matt. So that was an unbelievable experience. And you're playing for the trombone world, right? So you're like the only people that are watching this, right? The audience is trombonist, right?
Trombonist. Wow.
So, we're sitting there, and I'm talking about Bob Florence, and who's sitting like literally right in front of me? Alex Alves, who is Bob Florence's trombonist, and he's looking up at the stage, and I say, if you want to hear how this song really goes, listen to Alex Alves on the recording. But I mean, it's just unbelievable to get the opportunity to do that. I'm so grateful and thankful that we got to do that.
Yeah, that's a lot of trombones at one time too. That's great. That's awesome. So in 2019, you were part of the Pittsburgh Hard Bop Sextet. And, this group has been featured on my program before. I think Rich Bowles is the drummer, and he was on just actually last week. And of course, Andy Yalch was a guest on my show, and he's also, I guess, occasionally in there. So I have a photo that I want to show. This one here, and there's George Clore. I know most of these guys. Ralph Guzzi, of course, trumpet, and a great arranger. I mean, he arranges for every group in town, I think. And then you're there with the trombone, and then Richie Bowles is standing there. Then the bass player, right?
Brian Stahersky. I'm playing.
And who's next to him?
That's Andy Yalch.
Andy Yalch there. Yeah, that's right.
So the funny thing about this picture is I had got us a gig at the Westmoreland Museum of American Art, which is a really great place to play. It's the Westmoreland Jazz Society, and a lady named Pat and her husband and another lady do this. And they just bring in all these great jazz groups. This has been just a great thing for our community. And it happens in Greensburg. And after the gig, I said, guys, we need to get a picture. We need to get a picture. And everyone's complaining, oh, McManus wants to get a picture, Well, it's the only picture we have of this group, But George Clore started this group. George is a saxophonist.
That's right.
He is like a facet in the community. He is the president of our musicians union. He does a great job. And he started the group. And all he wanted to do, it was very much like my octet, the idea of my octet. He just wanted to get a group of his friends together to play fun music that he liked playing. So it's George on sax, me, Ralph Guzzi on bone.
Ralph Guzzi on trumpet.
Ralph Guzzi on trumpet. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Brian Stahersky on bass, Rich Bowles on drums, and then the original piano player. The piano player is Rick Purcell.
Okay.
And then when we need a sub, Kevin Clark a lot of times will come in and either sub for me on bone or on piano, because he's amazing on both. Yeah. Or Andy Yalch, or there's a variety. Like we're doing a gig here, and I think it's actually next weekend. I think it's next Saturday. Instead of having a pianist, we're going to have a guitar player.
Okay.
So Kenny Karch is going to play with us. So, it's just whatever, however it works,
Mm-hmm. I have two clips that I want to play of this group. So this is the first one. A song called "Liberated Brother" by Horace Silver. So let me play this here a little quick. And that was Kevin Clark playing piano this time, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. And I have another, you guys playing Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Let me play a little bit of this. There's a lot of licks there. That's good. That was enjoyable. I like that.
It's amazing that I thank you again for asking me to do this. I mean, as musicians are funny people, and we have so many funny things that happen, and and we love what we do.
Yeah,
and that's the thing, and we're never looking backwards. We'll talk about, oh, you remember this funny thing happened or whatever, but we're never looking backwards. And I didn't even know that those things existed until a couple of weeks ago. I was talking to Ralph and said that you were going to interview me, and he started clicking around. He said, oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And there are things that, and it's not to be, I'm not talking about it like it wasn't important to me, but I've been blessed to get to do so many things. And those things, I remember recording the albums, but I don't remember until I saw them going into the studio and actually doing that. And, I just want to say, like, Ralph Guzzi is the gold standard of the Pittsburgh music scene. If you could get him to do one of these, that would make no matter who you interview, it's not going to be complete until you get that guy, because he, from the 70s, has been involved in everything that happens in this town. And he has provided more work for musicians than anybody. He's created. He was never one of those people. Mark Lusk taught me this. He was never a person that thought, this is the pie. The pie has 8 slices in it, or the pizza has, it's an 8-slice pizza or a 10-slice. Ralph has just always created. It's not an 8-slice pizza. It's a 10. It can be a 10-slice pizza, a 12-slice, a 16-slice. He's never tried to take work away from anybody. He's tried to create work for everybody in our town. He's used everybody. He's contracted everybody in the town. He's written for everybody. And he is the single person that gave this entire generation of younger musicians the chance to play and to be heard. So this started from when he formed the Balcony Band. He was a co-leader in the Balcony Band. He wrote charts. His first chart was Negril. He wrote it for the Pitt Jazz Ensemble. Nathan Davis had handpicked him to be the assistant jazz ensemble director at Pitt. And they were going to Negril, Jamaica, and he wrote a song called Negril. And then, so he was teaching those kids at Pitt. And then he formed the Balcony Band and did all these gigs and helped form Latshaw Productions, and then formed the Pittsburgh Jazz Society Student Big Band, which all of us, every one of us, came up through the Balcony Band and the Student Big Band. And he wrote charts for us. And so this has been amazing to see this, because I had forgotten about those videos. You know?
Well, so, I'll stop you with this. I did reach out. I know Ralph Guzzi from college and, for forever. And I did reach out to Ralph to see if he would want to be a guest on the program, and he declined. So maybe I'll reach out again. Maybe he'll change his mind after he's, sees this. But I think a lot of it is just his personality. He's not just, like you're very talkative and you can, feel comfortable in this role, interviewing different people and doing, what you do. But Ralph he does a phenomenal job with arranging and playing and doing all the things like you said. But he's not, necessarily want to be out front and talking about it. You know what I mean? He's a very humble guy.
He is humble and he's just a quiet person.
Yeah.
He's just such a quiet person. I was just interviewed by the University of Pittsburgh paper, and it was to contribute to an article that they were doing on him. They featured him. He was the one person picked campus wide. And the student that had submitted the submission to because they submit who they should get. And they said he is like the international, man of mystery.
Yeah.
And the student who was in his jazz ensemble said, I want to know more about this guy. So then they reached out to me and said, could you do an interview to tell us about Ralph? And, but he is the Pittsburgh gold standard, and he has done more for this city and more for our musicians than anybody. And he is really, I'll help you try to get an interview with him because
there you go.
Yeah, he's amazing.
You can nudge him a little bit,
He's my best friend. He lives, he's one of my best friends. He lives 5 blocks away from me.
Okay.
So
you can nudge him a little bit. I want to talk about another one, a guy that I found this picture here, and this is interesting. Slide Hampton.
Slide Hampton.
I hadn't heard that name for a long time. Just tell us about this, you're meeting him,
Slide Hampton is from Jeanette, Pennsylvania.
I didn't know.
Yes. Okay. And his family were musicians, and he picked up the trombone. They had family instruments, and he picked up the trombone. No one taught him how to play it, so he put it together backwards. So he is one of the very few trombonists who play left-handed.
Oh, wow.
There was another guy named Hoyt Bohannon in, I already mentioned Hoyt, Hoyt's East, Hoyt's Garage. Hoyt played the trombone with the right hand, but he was never happy that the style was with vibrato. And he was never happy with the vibrato he got with the right hand, so he turned the trombone around and played with the left hand.
Yeah.
But Slide, I got introduced to Slide when I was a sophomore in college. My jazz ensemble director brought him in, and I got to go up and trade blues choruses and then 4s or whatever with Slide. And then Al Dow, a Pittsburgh trombonist, would bring Slide in all the time. So I would get to see Slide 2, 3, 4 times a year in Pittsburgh. And also Slide was best friends with Harold Betters. And they were actually contemporaries, and they have actually done an album together when they were young, probably when they were in their 20s or 30s. Slide and Harold. So I had all these guys surrounding me that brought Slide into this kind of Pittsburgh circle, and that's how I got to be friends with him.
I see.
And that was towards I can't say that. It was towards the end of his life. But he came in to play at a club, and I went to hear him, and someone took that picture of us. I think I asked for the picture to be taken, but that was the last time I got to see Slide. So he was a great man. Oh, just a gentleman.
He looks like he would be. And I got to mention something too, because as you know, you're like the 63rd guest I've had on this program, you probably, there's a few people like yourself, but not many, that have documented their career. And, I was horrible with this, like taking pictures and things. Of course, most of my career, we didn't have the camera with the take a photo, and I never was one to walk around with a camera, that's for sure. But so that didn't exist. For instance, I played with Luciano Pavarotti, and I mean, I would love to have a picture. And he would have, if I would have asked him, he would have taken a picture with me because he liked me because I was Italian, and I understood him. but I never asked. And, I had another guest on the program, and I talked to him, and he was an engineer, and Tom Perry, and he engineered people like Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Michael Jackson, and all these people, and all like big names. And he had one picture of Michael McDonald in the studio when Tom was engineering, who was Michael's wife, Amy Grant, who was doing a recording of Amy Grant, and Michael happened to be in the booth with Tom, and he has one, and I even talked to him about it, and he said, well, he says these guys all come in, and they're not really looking to, like we're all equal. We're all like just there to work and do our job, right?
Yep.
We're not there to like, oh, I'm going to get a picture of you. And I was the same way. I was around a lot of different people, but I never really tried, but you were, of course, you grew up in a different era because you had the cell phone it was so easy to do. And, but you, even all of these photos and you documented your career, and when we get to the end, which is going to be pretty soon, I'm going to show a lot of credits, a credit roll that you put together of your resume, and it's amazing to me that you were able to keep track of everything. I mean, not everybody can do that. That's another whole world, right?
I honestly. I thank you for the compliment. I never felt like I did document my career because usually, especially on all the PBS shows, I hardly ever took a picture with any of these people. And my dad would say, get a picture with, you're playing with Aretha, and I would say, Dad, she doesn't want to get a picture with me, or whoever. I'll tell you just real quick, because you just sparked something in my mind. I mean, you've sparked so many things in my mind, but Slide Hampton, I remember, he was at Dow's on 9th.
Okay.
And Etta Cox was a team with Al Dow, and,
sure.
and Slide was there. And they were up there, and someone said, like, she was going to sing Take the A Train. I guess she knew the word that somebody had put with Take the A Train, right? So okay, Take the A Train. Okay, no problem. Key of D. It's like, oh boy. Okay. So he's, this is Slide Hampton. This is the guy who told me, he said, Kevin, there are no hard keys. There are only unfamiliar keys. And he said, it's no harder to play in the key of B than it is B flat. He said, just everyone's unfamiliar in B. So he said, practice in the key of B. And every day when I do my warm up, I warm up in F sharp and E and B and A. That's what I do instead of playing B flat. So it's because of Slide. So Slide's up there, right? And he is playing, and he's like fishing around, he was just a little bit having a hard time playing Take the A Train in the key of D. And he comes down and he said, isn't it and then he expletive deleted, when the note you're searching for is B flat. Because in the original key, you play ba-dee-da, ba-dee-da, and you play a G sharp.
Yeah. So,
go up a whole step in the key of D, and it's a B flat, but he couldn't find that note, and I laughed so hard, but it was so funny. And it was so if you knew him, it was so out of character for him ever to say anything that wasn't the most gentlemanly. He was like this supreme gentleman. And that's what he said. We laughed so hard about that.
That is funny. That's a great story. Yeah. That's classic right there. So Kevin, in 2024, you recorded with vocalist Betsy Lawrence.
Oh, yeah.
And tell us about that experience. I have a video song called I Love You Anyway. I'll play a little bit of that, and then maybe you could talk about it after. Let's play this.
You took everything that I gave you. You took it for granted and you threw You're playing around and I'm tired of the things you say. I'm so over your histrionics. You rewrite history every day. Would it kill you to say I'm sorry? It's gonna kill me, but I love you anyway. I love you anyway. Hey, I love you anyway. The words you say, they tear my heart away. But hey, I love you anyway. Do 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 da da. Do do do.
Here you go.
Okay, so I don't think that was recorded in 2024. I think that was recorded in about 2020.
Okay.
Okay. You know, the way that I think about recording, at least in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure in the other cities it's even more so like this, but it's like going to a Supreme Court argument. And
Okay.
it's like you have 30 minutes to you go, Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court. And your time is running from that second on.
Yeah.
Everything that we do is so quick. So I was just in the studio a few weeks ago. We recorded 18 or 19 clips for Pure Gold. We had everything's based in 3-hour sessions. We got done with every clip in 1 hour and 48 minutes. And that had to do with like checking the mic levels, getting a blend, play this a couple times, make sure we got it. Like when we record, it is so fast. And we never see the music in advance. So I didn't know that this song existed until 2 weeks ago. Ralph Guzzi sent that to me. And he said, hey, I think you really sound good on this. Maybe you should use this and send this to Vito. And I remember doing a recording session for Betsy Lawrence, of course, because Betsy is like part of this, like she is a staple in the community. She was part of this CMU contingent where she has taught everybody, literally all the vocalists. And I mean, just amazing what she has done. And just her career has been awesome. But that was a session we did. And it's like most of the sessions. We go in, we show up early, you have to be warmed up, be ready. We go in, we sit down, Ralph comes or whoever the contractor is, they put a manila folder down on your stand and you open it up. And then they're like, hey, can we get a mic level? And you play. And then they're like, play something together. And you play something together and they might adjust a little bit and they say, play again. And then you just start recording. And what you're hearing usually is the drummer, the bass player, the piano player. If there's a guitar, sometimes there's a guitar player and sometimes there's not. Sometimes the guitar is put on last. Like if they have a lot of solo fills or something, they're not there. So we don't even know what the song is. Like we have the title, but we're just hearing, you know. So I had never heard this song. Ralph sent me this, and it's amazing to get to hear the finished product because I had never heard the finished product. I had never heard the vocal. I had never heard the words of the song, you know. And the worst thing that can happen is you play it, you do something, and everybody else had a good take.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, when you get done with the take, you say, hey, listen, in bar 19, I didn't quite get that. And the trumpet player is like, you know, on a high G or something like that, and they got it perfectly. Yeah. And now you have to retake it because of you. And that's the thing. A lot of times, as one of the lower voices, you make a mistake and everything else is right. They're just like, it's staying on there, and you know, they're not happy about it. And we do a lot of recording, and like the pressure's on. I mean, that's when the pressure is really on. Yeah. To get it right.
No, I agree with you. I understand.
And there, you know, and the exact opposite thing can happen. You might have a really hard lick. Yeah. And you might nail it. And then somebody else makes a mistake and oh man.
I have to play it again. Well, Kevin, it's been wonderful. I have one more video that I'd like to show. And this is really you sent me basically your resume and all of the different credits that you have, that people that you've played with, artists that you've performed with and recorded with, and all the different schools, all the different things. So I'd like to play this. It's a little bit long, but there's a lot going on. Plus, there are 3 different songs, and you're playing on all 3 of these songs that I'm going to play. And so I'd like to play this, and then after that, if you have any other comments or anything you'd like to say, we will talk about it. Okay?
Sure.
Okay, here we go.
If you really love me, won't you tell me? Yeah. If you really need me, won't you tell me? Yeah. Then I won't have to be laying around. You call my name, ooh, so sweet, to make your kissing complete. When your mood is clear, you quickly change your ways. Then you say I'm untrue. What am I supposed to do? Be a fool who sits alone waiting for you. But if you really love me, won't you tell me? Yeah. And if you really love me, won't you tell me? Yeah. Then I won't have to be laying around. I see the light of your smile calling me all the while. You're saying, baby, it's time to go. First the feeling's alright, then it's gone from sight. So I'm taking out this time to say, oh, if you really love me, won't you tell me? Yeah. And if you really love me, won't you tell me? Yeah. Then I won't have to be laying around, laying around. to me so loud. Do I do what you do when I do my love to you? All right. When I hear you on the phone, your sweet sexy voice turns my ear all the way on. Just the mention of your name seems to drive my head insane. Do I do what you do when I do my love to you, baby? Yes, I got some candy kisses for your lips. Yes, I got some honeysuckle chocolate dripping kisses full of love for you. Yes, I got some honey kisses for your lips. Yes, I got some honeysuckle chocolate dripping kisses full of love for you. Life has been waiting for your love. My arms have been waiting for your love to arrive. My heart has been waiting, my soul anticipating your love, love, from the time that I awake, I'm imagining the good love that we'll make. And if to me your vibe can do all this, just imagine how it's gonna feel when we hug and kiss. So do I do what you do?
I don't even know if you had time to eat your Cheerios in the morning. Wow. That's all I gotta say.
Well,
You were a busy guy.
thank you. And I don't look at them as like they're my accomplishments. I think that there's a lot of people who gave me chances to do these things with
Well,
them.
It's all part of it, of course. All of us, had that people help. It's always, you never get there on your own. There's a lot of push from different directions and different people pushing you to get there. That's normal. But you went out and played those gigs, and you went out and recorded those sessions and everything. So you did it. It's nice to get the opportunity, but when the opportunity knocks, you have to be able to deliver. That's the key.
Dr. Page used to talk about that.
Yeah.
He used to say that all the time to me. I kind of minored in conducting.
Okay.
When I did my master's. Kind of in my undergrad too, I took, two of the most influential musicians in my life are Dennis Glocke at Penn State.
Uh-huh.
And he was the wind ensemble conductor. And that's the reason why I went to Penn State.
Okay.
He is one of the top musicians I've ever met. It's very much like Steve Gage at Youngstown. If you ever have heard about that man. But when I went to Carnegie Mellon, I asked if I could minor in conducting. And so I had a weekly lesson with Dr. Page. And he always used to say, people think that they never get their chance. And he would say, that little gig or that little this or that little that you play, that was your big break, Yeah. And he would say you have to be at the right place at the right time, but you have to have the goods to do the job.
That's exactly right.
He would say it's like a three-legged stool,
Say that all the time, even when I was teaching to my students, when you get the opportunity, you have to deliver the goods what the people are looking for, whether it's a producer, a director, whatever. You have to have it, and you have to have it right, and it has to be great.
One of my friends in New York, he's a fantastic bass trombone player. His name's Jack Schatz. And he always says, Kevin, there's a fine line between being discovered and found out.
That's good.
He tells that to me all the time. We laugh so hard.
That's good. And hey, that's a good line to end with. Kevin, it's been wonderful having you on. I appreciate your time and all your talent and sharing your stories and sharing your journey with us, with our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vito. Seriously, thank you.
You're quite welcome. And you have a great evening.
Okay. Take care.
We'll talk to you again. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And there you go. Another episode of Memories of a Musician with Kevin McManus. What a tremendous young man. And a great player, obviously, to do all that he's done. He's in the thick of it, and he still has a lot of career ahead of him, too. Looking ahead to next week, May 20th, be sure to tune in to Memories of a Musician to meet my special guest, Gina Morgano. Gina Morgano is a professional singer, a TEDx speaker, and vocal confidence coach who believes every voice matters. She helps people love their voice and express themselves with confidence. An alto with the Mendelssohn Choir of Pittsburgh, Gina performs regularly with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra and has appeared at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and premier venues across New York City. A versatile vocalist, her work spans classical to contemporary styles. She is also a frequent national anthem singer and concert producer. As a speaker and educator, Gina helps leaders, teams, and individuals to open, trust, and expand their voice and impact. A former public and private school teacher, she currently maintains a private online voice studio, hosts the Voice Space podcast, and creates resources that inspire aligned, courageous expression. The episode will be streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Gina Morgano on Memories of a Musician on Wednesday, May 20th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me, and you have a great evening.